Hey gang, if you're watching this episode for the first time on YouTube, that means it's a week old and was recorded before Avengers Endgame came out, which means there's no spoilers, but there's also nothing in here about what might be coming next after all the things that happened to various persons in that movie. So if you want to watch an episode that's all about that, that's also just full of spoilers, because it has to be, duh, it's on the Escapist website right the hell now, so go check that out if that's what you're looking for, yeah. As of this recording and initial posting, I haven't yet seen Avengers Endgame. I'm not sure that anyone outside of Marvel Disney has, but that's another matter, unless of course you're first watching this a week later on YouTube. In which case, my review has been posted, so go see what I thought of it. I'm sure it's riveting. Endgame, of course, is being touted as the climax to just over a decade's worth of Marvel Cinematic Universe storytelling, although they did just now suddenly come out and say, actually, no, wait, that Spider-Man movie that's coming up right after is the official ending to Phase 3, which honestly feels more like saying, hell, the MCU Spider-Man looks kinda underwhelming after Spider-Verse. We'd better give people more of a reason than Jake Gyllenhaal wearing a fishbowl that they should give a shit, because, come on, is there really gonna be some major unresolved plot point from the universe-altering cosmic war that doesn't get resolved until Peter Parker's European field trip? And of course, there's a certain amount of relativity in that. One of the reasons the Marvel Cinematic Universe has worked, where other attempts like Dark Universe or Zack Snyder's original plan for the DC Extended Universe did not, is that it didn't actually have some grand, complex, specific narrative mapped out beforehand to adhere to, apart from, hey, this shared universe thing where the heroes can all bump into each other on the street and start clubs and be friends made us a whole shitload of money in the comics, so maybe we should do that for movies. And what now feels like a micro-character theme about found family, not going it alone, friendship, teamwork, self-sacrifice, etc., and a macro-ideological theme that's about breaking down barriers, universality, brotherhood, and maybe possibly more specifically globalism and post-nationalist unity of the type where Disney still gets to be an all-encompassing capitalist empire, of course. Besides, the main overwhelming reason the MCU became the reigning pop mythology of the early 21st century is that the meta-narrative, actual narrative, and individual film plots always ran a distant second to creating and focusing on the development and interplay between strong, compelling characters. That's why the Marvel movies that are mostly about plot minutia and filling in story details are the ones that aren't as good, and Endgame is supposed to be the end for a good few of these now globally beloved characters. So in the respect that the story of all this had been the global audience's collective relationship with their favorite characters, yeah, parts of those stories are coming to something like an actual end, and that's kind of a big deal. Which of course means that everyone's attention will then soon turn to what comes next, since committing to this whole continuity thing and then getting everyone actually attached to a bunch of characters most of mainstream culture could not have cared less about prior to 2008 means that reboots or recastings aren't necessarily a sure thing, and it doesn't seem like they're in a huge hurry to do next-generation torch-passing stories yet, which is probably a good idea. Why pull that trigger until you need to? And that in turn means this whole project is suddenly in sort of uncharted waters again for the first time in forever, just in time for rival studios to get their shit together, particularly Warner Brothers, which after shitting the bed for a while, apart from Wonder Woman, now has a brand new blockbuster franchise family audiences are in love with Shazam, and are possibly about to make the kind of money we'll need to invent new numbers to count off of Detective Pikachu. I would not honestly be surprised at all if that outgrosses Endgame and Star Wars at the end of the year. Honestly, that thing's gonna be a monster. Well, as Marvel goes, apart from the known quantity of Spider-Man Far From Home and the culturally adjacent but otherwise not spectacle of watching the already pre-defunct X-Men movies run out the clock in Dark Phoenix, which I believe now has been almost completely reshot 3 times to try and achieve a releasable movie that nobody asked for. The big mysterious question mark is supposedly the Eternals, which nobody knows anything about other than it's based on a fairly obscure 1970s Jack Kirby project that was yet another go-around on the whole ancient astronaut chariots of the gods head trip cosmic mythology thing that he got really into, kind of similar to the DC New Gods stuff, not very popular on its own in its day, but later folded ubiquitously into the retroactive mythos of the Inhumans, Captain Marvel, Thanos, that whole thing. I have honestly no idea how the Eternals is going to work as a movie. I presume it'll end up being fairly different from the comic incarnation, if only because everything about that was very of its time, and also you don't want to end up being too similar to the New Gods movie Ava DuVernay already has in development over at Warner Brothers. If in fact we end up finding out any great detail about where the MCU version of Thanos came from, and if he's got any extended family or backstory relations still hopping around the universe, I imagine that'll play a part. Bottom line, Marvel seems pretty jazzed about this. Angelina Jolie and Korean badass Ma Dong-seok are in the cast. Angle seems to be Game of Thrones, but in space with superheroes. Hey, we'll see. Speaking of space stuff, Disney came to their f***ing senses, listened to reason and an unprecedented backlash from moviegoers, and brought James Gunn back into the fold, meaning that Guardians of the Galaxy 3 is actually going to happen, eventually. There really isn't any more information on that front. I just like reminding people that it happened and the good guys actually won for a change. Speaking of good guys winning, a big priority for Marvel post-Endgame looks to be making the general character roster a bit more on the diverse side, since as the sage wisdom of angry YouTube men foretold, get woke, go broke, in your knees and your lower back from carrying your giant sacks of money because Captain Marvel and Black Panther both cleared like $1 billion and YouTube angry men don't know anything.
You stupid.
And part of that push will be the MCU's first theatrical East Asian superhero, Shang-Chi, Master of Kung Fu, which may or may not end up receiving a more appropriate modern-day subtitle, possibly Shang-Chi, we're sorry about Iron Fist. Black Panther 2 also officially announced on those same lines. The original, of course, was a cultural phenomenon even beyond the usual Marvel fandom, the highest-grossing and best-reviewed solo Marvel movie, at least until Captain Marvel, and ultimately the first superhero film ever to be nominated for Best Picture at the Academy Awards, so hey, no pressure on that follow-up, right? Also, the long-overdue Black Widow solo movie, which despite being solo, will probably still feature several other new or returning characters as support or teammates, because if you noticed, all of these movies are more or less team-up movies about surrogate families, because Marvel is going to ride that horse until they don't have a horse anymore, which at this point has been so long in coming, it feels less overdue and more like a victory lap, since Johansson long ago proved she can open an action movie on her own. And it doesn't really feel like it, since he kept popping up in other people's movies, but Doctor Strange was kind of a while ago, and Doctor Strange 2 is taking its time, but it's been announced and supposedly on its way in the next few. I would not be surprised to see them try and launch a magic hero team around that character and see who they can spin off from there, especially now that they've got the whole Disney Plus streaming service to fill up. Oh yeah, Disney Plus, that's now part of the equation. And they've already announced, oh yeah, there's also 2 untitled movies that they've already reserved space for in their budget schedule apart from the other's name that apparently can't be revealed until after Endgame comes out because the titles are spoilers or something, so yeah, that's a thing. Anyway, as I was saying, they're cramming a bunch of MCU continuity content into the new streaming service, having already announced series based around Hawkeye, Vision and Wanda, Falcon and Winter Soldier, Loki, and an animated anthology based on What If comics that will retell big stories from the movies, but if things had happened differently. Cool, I think. Also, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Cloak and Dagger, and Runaways all coming back for at least one more season, but no one seems to know what's going to happen in their storylines because of Endgame, so what else is new? And that's not even touching on stuff that's kind of connected, but also kind of not. Things felt clearly meant to connect Venom to the Tom Holland Spider-Man movies, also felt noticeably chopped out and reworked to downplay them at the last minute because everyone involved realized Venom had turned out terribly and didn't want it anywhere near Spider-Man, but then people ended up enjoying it as kind of a fun, terrible movie, and it made money, so now they maybe have to say that it does count, and there's probably another one on the way.
On my planet, I am kind of a loser, like you. But here, we could be more.
Excuse me?
And I'm getting to like it here.
Oh, you like us now, do you, huh?
Cut the bullshit. What really made you change your mind?
You did, Eddie.
Also, Morbius the Living Vampire with Jared Leto for some reason, which also is a maybe, maybe not Spider-Man MCU adjacent thing in the same sense. Look, if it keeps Disney and Sony friendly enough that maybe Tom Holland does a Spider-Verse crossover at some point and leads to MCU versions of Gwen and a few of the others sooner than later, I'll take it. It's also unclear whether or not the Marvel adult animation shows coming to Hulu will be MCU continuity or not. At last count, that was 4 series consisting of Howard the Duck, MODOK, Dazzler and Tigra, and Hitmonkey, followed by a team-up series as The Offenders, under multiple creative teams including Kevin Smith, Patton Oswalt, Chelsea Handler, and several others. And the elephant in the room, of course, is still the X-Men and Fantastic Four properties, now reclaimed from the Fox merger, which no one is saying anything about other than keep waiting. Despite rumors and gossip and fan theories, no, I sincerely do not think that Endgame or its post-credit scenes will involve some kind of dimensional crossing bullshit that makes the X-Men show up or changes history so they've always been there, or Thanos creates the mutants or whatever. I don't think anything like that is coming in Dark Phoenix either. To be honest, the only X-Men thing Disney seemed actively eager to reassure anyone about is the only X-Men property anyone has cared about in theaters for the last few years, Deadpool. They couldn't wait to confirm, don't worry, we'll still make Deadpool movies. And it honestly would neither surprise nor bother me at all if they solved this entire issue by just starting Deadpool 3 in an MCU where he, mutants, and the X-Men have just always been around and part of things, made a few meta jokes about that not making sense with the continuity, then had Deadpool make more jokes about how it's a goddamn superhero movie and we should stop dwelling on stupid bullshit like that and just enjoy the prospect of Hulk eventually fighting Juggernaut or whatever and just let that be the final word on the subject. That would probably be better than spending a whole serious movie dealing with it. Anyway, that would be the game post-Endgame that we know of so far. Don't know that I have a larger point this week, but these movies sure are a pleasant distraction from the impending global climate apocalypse, aren't they? My review of the movie will post later in the week. If you see it before your friends, don't be a dick and spoil it. I'm Bob, and that's The Big Picture.